He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got up third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Herman Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Herman Whitfield to the 30, to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Herman Whitfield, a 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass on the other.
It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown, FSU! Kelvin Benjamin!
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet and Old Podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli.
Welcome one and all to the Garnet and Old Podcast. How's it going, Vince?
Garnet and Old Show podcast. It's going great. Garnet and Old. I'm going to let you say it this time, Ryan.
You know, Garnet and Old, I believe our motto is no inside info, no contacts, no problem. And guess what?
I'm going to drive that home.
It's the off season, baby. We got no problems for a long time. We got nothing but good stuff. Thanks
you
for
have
everyone
no problems
for
with the audio.
I got no problems. I got camera. I'm in HD today. I got surround sound. We're good to go. We got it all ironed out. That's what we're about here, fixing and elevating issues, right?
That's right. Ryan got 1% better today.
Every day.
And so he's definitely on top of the world. You're on top of the world.
Hey, man, we dogs. We ain't no puppies.
It's been a good week, Ryan. It's a bad transition. It's been a good week, Ryan. A lot to talk about over the weekend. So let's get to it.
Absolutely. What do you want to start off with, Vince?
I think we got to start out with Legacy Weekend. I think we really have to start there. So let's start with that.
Let's do it.
So
a lot of visitors, right?
What's that?
We got a lot of visitors. You know, the transition is happening quickly from Florida State hanging out with a bunch of average-ass teams. So getting a little excited here. A whole bunch of average teams in the recruiting rankings the last couple of years. And wouldn't you know it, 110-win season. And we got 5 stars out the wazoo coming to town.
Right. And that's how it happens because, you know, these guys that are coming up, they're young guys. So they're kind of creatures of the moment, a lot of them. And so our team wasn't really anything for some of their formative years. If you think about how bad we've been going through it all. But now we weren't great. We were not great. But, you know, I think people were a little upset that we didn't get a major recruiting. Oh, hold on a second.
Hello.
Echo.
Can you
Again,
hear me?
man, every time. People were upset, as the team's starting to play better and starting to win games, recruits aren't committing right away. It's not the way the recruiting game works. So recruiting, you know, you're always a year out or more sometimes. So now what you're going to see is the fruit of the 10-win season. You're seeing it already, but even more so next year. So
unless you have some big name booster that illegally tries to bring players to town, you have to do it the right way, which is what we're doing. We're bringing people in because they want to be here, not because we're offering outrageous sums of money to play for a school that hasn't mattered in 20 years.
Hey, if I was a big time booster, Ryan, and you know, I'm not. I'm striving.
You could be.
I would try to throw my weight around too, but I would do it in the shadows. I wouldn't be doing it out for all to see.
You're the Bruce Wayne of boosters. You would be doing your business in the parking lots at midnight, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, if you think about it, you know, what's your superpower? You know, I'm rich. That's not true. But if that were true, that would be the superpower.
Yes.
But yeah, so that's the way I would do it. But regardless, back to Legacy Weekend. So Legacy Weekend was a big recruiting weekend where not only were there a bunch of elite recruits in town, but they also, you know, invited back a number of alumni, like well-known alumni. And if you think about it, who were your heroes when you were growing up, Ryan?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Buster Posey on the baseball side. Jameis Winston, I was already grown. I was in college, but big time players doing big time things.
Yeah. So if you're impressionable, and you're trying to make this great decision for your life, and what better decision to make than to go to Florida State? The icing on the cake is going there to visit and getting all this attention shown on you. But then you also maybe get to meet some of your heroes, some of the people you watched on TV. Like a lot of them probably watched Jameis Winston throw the touchdown pass to win the title. So
they probably also saw him fall backwards and throw an interception in the Rose Bowl. But that's
I still to this day have not seen that game, Ryan.
You really?
I've never watched that game.
No highlights?
Nope. Nope.
You've seen the GIF though. You've seen the backwards.
I've seen the GIF.
Okay.
I've seen the GIF because I saw the GIF that somebody made with him falling back and all the coins, like the Sonic coins, falling out of him.
Yeah, I saw the NBA one where what's his name was blowing on him, and he fell backwards.
Yeah, but no, to this day, Ryan, and I will go to my grave, never having watched that game.
But man, I tell you what, I saw those pictures.
Back to Legacy Weekend.
It brought back some feelings, Vince. I saw those pictures online. By the way, Jameis rocking the dreads.
Yeah, didn't recognize him at first.
Yeah.
That man has gone through some hair changes, right?
He has.
I'm like Jimbo, going through the hair changes.
Yeah, it comes back and it goes away and it comes back
and it goes away. But yeah, the dreads and the family with him. His dad, Antonor, was there. And of course, his younger brother was there on a recruiting trip. So
from Afghanistan?
No, not his cousin from Afghanistan, his little brother, Jonah, who is a recruit, and he got an offer while he was there. So
I need to ask you something about that,
yeah.
Vince. So Mr. Younger Brother Winston, quarterback, looks talented. If you ever watch any of his tape, he actually looks like his throw motion is Jameis Winston. Does it bother you that Alabama offered him first before we offered him?
I don't think so. Did we offer Jameis first?
No, but Jameis, in hindsight, wins a national championship. You would think the legacy factor would allow us to make an offer before some of our rivals.
You might be right about that, but also have to consider, Ryan, the mess that our program was in for quite a long time. So, I would suffice it to say that probably the coaches didn't have all their ducks in a row prior to this current staff. I may have heard some things about that, so that doesn't shock me.
Teola Winston's probably not pleased with that.
What's that?
Teola Winston is not pleased with the not being first.
You think she's back from Afghanistan?
I hope so.
I hope so. It's a long time to spend there. But anyway, Jameis was there, and they brought him back to throw out the first pitch Friday night for the baseball series against Pitt. And let's just say Jameis was a relief pitcher for us.
He sure was.
And quite an arm, right? There's a great highlight of him throwing out a guy at third base from deep in right field. Right.
I remember
on a line.
He also threw a football over a frat house one time.
Yes. He threw a football over the mountain. But he threw out the first pitch, and I wasn't there. I didn't see it, but apparently it wasn't so great. It kind of rolled it up to the mound. So, Jameis, man, he's just all smiles regardless. He looks like he had a good time, and he also had a chance to speak with not only the baseball team, but the football team as well. So having Jameis back was awesome. What else occurred, Ryan?
Do you think had Jameis had a baseball glove and baseball in his backyard with a man trying to poke him with a stick with his dog chasing him around in warm-ups in preparation for today, that it would have been any different of an outcome?
It's possible.
It seemed to have helped his football career none at all.
That's a sub-reference that a lot of people are not going to get, Ryan.
If any of you want to know, search on Twitter or on YouTube Jameis Winston off-season workout videos, and you will be
Brooms
entertained for
or
hours.
whatever. Yeah, the man has gone through the most I mean, outrageous off-season workout things, and they're funny to watch. I knowing kind of the way he probably is, I'm wondering if some of it was done in jest, and some of them are real, but it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So,
Got to get that W every day.
Buster Posey's jersey retired.
Buster Posey, Vince, what? So Buster Posey played at Florida State 2003 to 6. Am I right on those dates? Around there, somewhere around there. I think
So.
Because I think I was
recall.
in high
I'm not
school
good
and
with dates.
transitioning to college. Buster Posey was one of, at the time, I was as big of a baseball fan, believe it or not, back then when I was in high school as college football. I played baseball for 7 years, all the way throughout high school. So baseball was important to me, and Buster Posey was like everything. Like, I loved Buster Posey.
Yeah, he's amazing in college, obviously, and then went to the pros and just went right ahead and won a couple World Series, and he was the best catcher in the league for a while, and that's a position that's hard to be great at. And he loves Florida State. Came back, got the jersey retired. They put his number right next to Mike Martin's out there in left center field.
Mm-hmm.
And this is cool. So he got to throw out the first pitch for that game. I think it was a Saturday game, I guess. Was it Saturday? Must have been, because I think Jameis did Friday night. But instead, since he was a catcher, instead of throwing out the first pitch, he caught the first pitch from his son. So his son threw the first pitch to him as a catcher. It was kind of a neat moment there. So
yeah, and Jalen Ramsey too this weekend.
Hold on, here's the Buster Posey.
Oh, cheers! Cheers. This brings up a great point, Vince. What do you got in that cup?
This is one of my favorite current drinks. Is a Kentucky Mule.
What is in a Kentucky Mule, Vince?
Oh, we're not going to go there, are we? We're going to go bourbon. We're going to go ginger beer and lime. That's all I really need.
You do not have an Embrace cup, though.
I do not. They get kind of sweaty, so I've got it in a double-walled stainless steel mug of a brand that does not sponsor us.
So Kentucky Mule and a simple, straight Crown Royal. Cheers to Buster Posey for all the memories, and Jameis, because let me tell you what, without Buster and Jameis, where would we be today? So cheers to them.
Yeah, cheers to them. Some other folks in town for the weekend. Jermaine Johnson got his brick, his All-America brick, laid in the Walk of Fame there. And so let's talk about that real quick, because it's just amazing. It speaks to the culture of the program. So, Ryan, how long was Jermaine Johnson at our school?
2 seasons.
12 months total.
Yeah, he enrolled in spring of one year, then graduated in spring the following. So I was going.
So 12 months roughly. And in his speech, he basically said, "This is my home. This is what I consider home. Florida State is, it's strange that this is the one I consider as my home." And, for the people that, talk about the transfer portal and how it's bad for your culture and it's not a sustainable model. I mean, so far, Florida State's been able to sustain that, and they brought in people that have brought the culture up. So, and that's a good example of it. Jermaine Johnson, who actually had his first child, I believe, the night before.
Yeah. Jermaine Johnson not only is a great example, but really the first big Mike Norvell transfer that came in and dominated. I mean, he was kind of the starting block where we were like, man, that was a good hit. Wouldn't that be nice if that happened every year? And it has.
It really has.
Yeah.
And I think it'll continue to happen, because it's kind of like when Jimbo signed that first class that kind of took a chance on him, right? With Jeff
Yeah.
Luck and who else was in that class?
Well, you had Jalen wasn't in that class.
No, and that wasn't Jalen. Anyway, there's a couple guys that really were elite talents.
Bjorn Warner.
On striker. Yeah. But they all, kind of took a chance and believed in it. And that kind of set the tone for that. And Jermaine Johnson is that guy from the transfer portal side. He came in, worked his tail off, and, now is making big time dollars. So.
Are we all good on Legacy Weekend? Great weekend. It was fun to watch the Twitterverse on that one, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's a lot of elite recruits. I mean, just some final things on that. A lot of elite recruits. Again, Brian, now that the momentum is accelerating, these recruiting weekends are not just a bunch of yahoos, like quantity, right? It's quantity, but it's also really 5-star, 4-star guys. So, and a lot of them, we're in the top 3, top 5.
Yeah,
and some of them are ready to commit.
Yep.
They
Well, we
haven't done
had
it,
two top 20 ESPN players crystal ball to us this weekend.
That's correct. Yeah, so that'd be Charles Lester, who's 5-star defensive back, and who's the other one? Jason Zandamela,
Yes. Yep.
Offensive lineman. Which
we love that.
Oh yeah, sign me up for that.
Yep.
So yeah, that's enough about Legacy Weekend. There'll be more recruiting, obviously, and I know the people that are watching Garnet and Old aren't probably as deep as we are into that, but we'll try to give you some highlights of that.
It's getting a little spring ball now, so obviously, really exciting time. That's, by the way, if you listen to the show every Tuesday at 7:00 for the next couple weeks leading up to the spring game, it's going to be a lot of spring practice coverage. So get ready for that. Micah Pittman, the one bad news that came out is that he is out, but 3 to 6 months. So at worst case scenario in that timeline, he's playing against LSU, according to my math. And maybe even if he's not starting, he's probably contributing. Yes. So what are your thoughts on Micah Pittman's injury? What a time to have some depth. Am I right?
Yeah, we had heard that Micah Pittman and a few others were out for the spring, but we had not heard how long they would be out. And then Micah posted on his social media that he was out 3 to 6 months. Come to find out that he had a torn labrum or something to that effect, where he literally was playing with that all last season. So if you think about games last season where Micah Pittman was kind of a focal point or made some crucial plays in those games, and I think maybe at the time they just thought it was a nagging thing, but it turns out he had a tear, and he played through the whole season, roughly the whole season with that. So that's, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, he had, incredible bend for having an injury.
I get out of bed wrong, and my day is shot. So, good on him. Of course, he's a lot younger than us. He would be Garnet and Young.
That's not true. We're about the same age, me and him. I'm 19.
Drink. So yeah, hearing about that. So 3 months would be, what is that? June?
Yeah, right in time for fall practice.
Right.
And I imagine that timeline, 3 to 6 months, is like he will, have a green shirt on and participate in workouts in probably fall practice, and maybe the last couple, maybe 2 weeks of fall camp, he actually is in no contact, but he is actually running routes and catching balls. And then my hope is he's back in time for LSU.
Yeah, because if you think about him, he's been around a while. He's a veteran. He doesn't need to, learn the quote unquote learn the playbook, right? He already knows what's going on. So really, for him, it'll just be getting confidence back in the injury, and then getting some reps in to build the conditioning up.
Yeah.
6 months puts him at September, which means we probably wouldn't see much of him until maybe late October, and then you're wondering whether you play at all.
I think that's an overly cautious timeline. Generally these days with these injuries, when they give the timeline, all of a sudden you'll read an article in June like, so-and-so player is way ahead of timeline. It's amazing how hard they worked in their rehab and they're back and practicing. So my hope is that we're in that earlier half of the timeline.
Right. And the other thing we don't know is, when did that 3 months start? The 3 months didn't start when he sent his post out, right?
Yeah.
They've probably known about this for a little while. Maybe the 3 months started in late January,
Sure.
so we don't really know when that 3 months countdown or 6 months countdown started. So,
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, Ryan. You are absolutely right. I know you like being right. The room is loaded.
It's loaded. We have receivers. I'm just thinking back literally 2 years ago when we were like, what are we going to do? Like, who's going to catch the ball? It was literally, we were relying on that time on what's his name? Who made the catch against Miami to win the game 2 years ago?
Nooney?
No.
Before
4th and 14. Putting you on the spot.
Good Lord.
That's how unimportant he is to the team right now.
Well, no, he was a transfer in from, Parchment.
Yeah, and we were thinking like into that season 2 years ago that he would need to be like the best receiver on the team, probably. Even if it didn't happen that way that year.
No, we wanted him to be because we weren't sure of everything else. Yeah.
And then last year, it's so funny how things change so quickly. Last year, going into the season, we were like, Johnny Wilson sure is big, but I don't really know anything about him. Micah Pittman, we'll see how that goes. It was a lot of like, man, these pieces look really fun. And I think they might be someday good. But now it was like a hit on every single one of them. So now
Right.
we're going in and now we're adding 2 tight ends. And you're like, well, okay.
And a freshman phenom who, you can't expect them to light the world on fire from the get-go, but from a situational standpoint, he's got all the talent in the world.
Mhm.
So the quicker he learns it all and gets his body ready, add him to the mix. And then you got Winston Wright, who we didn't get to enjoy at all last year.
Yeah.
And apparently
That's
he
exciting.
is lightening it up too in camp. So if you're gonna lose, Micah Pittman for an extended period of time, I'm confident in that group.
Sure. And moving on to some more practice news on the defensive side of the ball, perhaps one of the best names on the team as far as great football names for a defensive player. Greedy Vance is having a fantastic showing in spring right now. Apparently, he's flying all around, making incredible plays, just being a lot more consistent than he was last year, which is awesome to hear. Both Greedy Vance and then, Daryl Jackson literally manhandling people on the offensive line.
Yeah. So Daryl Jackson is a transfer from the U,
Mhm.
and you will recognize him as the defensive lineman who got put on, whose responsibility was covering Toafili on a wheel route
Mhm.
for a particular play. And some people say that was the moment he decided he didn't want to be at Miami anymore. But that's half joking. But he's a Miami transfer. We're not really sure yet whether he is going to get a waiver to be able to play this season.
They think he will.
Probably, but we don't have that as a definite yet. So you look at the defensive line. You got Fabo, right? And having Fabo come back was like, man, we were so stoked about that.
NFL prospect.
People are talking about Daryl Jackson as being another level above. So
Yep.
how do you like them apples?
Well, then add Jared Verse into that mix on the outside.
Mhm.
And we're talking.
And Pat Payton.
It's so fun. And you know this, Vince, because we've seen it in the past. You'll have people questioning. We just had people questioning 2 years ago our wide receiver coach, right? Fire the wide receiver coach. It's a mess. It's a mess. And then we get wide receivers in here, and all of a sudden it's like, man, it seems like we have a great wide receivers coach. And now that you got the defensive line, no one's ever questioned Odell. But it's amazing how if you get a loaded defensive line linebacker room, how it can just make us look unbelievable just by having some pressure on the ball on every play.
Yeah, and having the depth for guys to take a blow because
Yeah. Whoa.
you
Hey,
know,
hey now.
take a breather, take a breather, because you can be, all world, but if you're playing 70, 80, 90 snaps a game,
Sure.
I think you're probably not going to be at your best for every snap. So having the depth there in and of itself is going to make a world of difference. It's almost like it's not the X's and O's, Ryan. It's
Jimmy's and
the
Joe's, something like
Jimmy's
that.
and Joe.
Yeah, you came up with that once. I remember that.
Wasn't me. A good friend of mine came up with that.
We have all this competition though, Vince, and as I always like to say, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Yes, that's what you like to say. You like to say that often. Iron does sharpen iron, and the competition only makes everyone better for sure. And it also, I think it's a draw. It's a draw to elite prospects to come and for most elite prospects to come and say, if I want to be the best I can be, I need to square up with people that are going to take me to task each and every play. That's what we got going. I don't even recognize the team from 2 to 3 years ago.
Nope,
I don't want to remember it. I don't want to think about it. And not that everything is perfect, but man, it is so fun to hear the news, talk about the positives, and to dream a little. Remember when you were dreaming, Ryan, 2 years ago? You were dreaming, and your dreaming wasn't really warranted.
To be fair, I've dreamt about the potential of maybe winning a national championship every single year, despite the writing on the wall. But I'm an optimist, so sue me. I actually don't, but you get the point. You know what? Speaking about dreaming, do you think when Willie Taggart brought Jordan Travis to Florida State that Jordan Travis ever believed he would be making $1.2 million in NIL deals?
You gotta be careful how you say that. Is he making 1.2 million, or are his NIL opportunities equal to $1.2 million?
The second is more accurate, but the point still that Jordan Travis, I was curious on on3.com, which is a website that tracks, all the NIL deals and how much players are basically,
or at least what they think they are. Yeah,
it's almost like a Forbes list of net worth, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not always accurate, but it gives you a sense of where people are at. And right now, Jordan Travis is 15th in the country of all NIL athletes on earning potential on what they anticipate his deals being worth. Compare that to not a single player in FSU at the beginning of last season being in the top 100.
Yeah, and now you got a couple, right?
Yeah, 5 in the top 100 now.
And so that, we were talking about this before the show started. That's not just football, I believe. That's like across all sports. So NIL opportunities across all sports. Yeah, I don't think most players didn't dream of any of that because the NIL hadn't really started to ramp up yet, and they didn't really know what it was going to look like.
Sure.
We still don't know kind of what eventually it'll look like. But if you think about, obviously he's athletically gifted to a large degree, and he works hard, right? He's the prototypical face of the program. He's positive. He's a good teammate. He is, knock on wood, he's not doing things to bring any kind of negative light to the program. So all those things, add up to being valuable. And in this case, we're talking about NIL value.
So here's a drink for Jordan Travis, who has gone from nothing to Heisman hopeful this year, right?
Well, going from, get me out of this school, Louisville.
Yeah.
And then get me home to where I always wanted to be. And now, look at me now.
Mm, hell yes. Hell yes. That's
To
good.
quote a friend of ours, yes.
So let's talk one more second about NIL. Just a quick mention. We've seen, all of us, no matter what your interest in college football is, you've seen somewhere in the last year, it could be on CNN.com, it could be on ESPN, that there's been some stupid NIL money being thrown around for players that, to be frank, out of high school should nowhere near be paid or considered to be paid that amount of money.
Never played a down of college ball yet.
And you had a whole lot of conferences doing X and the other conference doing Y, and everyone had their own rules, and money it was basically a cap-free league. Do whatever you want was what the NCAA has
Wild
been doing.
West.
Which, hey man, good for the players. They can get whatever they want, but it also leads to extreme equity issues. It gives a lot of schools, or a small amount of schools, a ton of opportunities, and the rest of the college football landscape, very few. So right now, Congress is currently hearing in hearings right now about potential laws, regulations, whatever they want to call it, on standardization, right, of NIL, which I think almost every coach, even if you have benefited extremely from NIL, even those coaches said we need some standardization, because I don't care if you're winning this year, you could lose you could be losing in that situation next year, and they know that. So they know it could flip on them as quickly as it awarded them. So I'm happy to see that.
I am too. I mean, it's like anything else. Like I want to do whatever I need to do to succeed, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to know what the guardrails are in order to succeed. And if I don't know, then I'm only going to do what I think I should do. But this guy over here might be really pushing the envelope, but putting the guardrails in place gives everybody at least some kind of structure, even if it's a little bit. Because right now there's not really any.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little bit of structure, so everybody knows what the game is.
Yeah. Structure is good. I think, Vince, you have kids. Structure is very good, right?
Structure is good. And, for those that, and I'm one of these people, for those the people that are looking at NIL and going, man, I just wish things were kind of the way they used to be. It's totally, it's quote unquote ruining the game. And let's be honest, schools have been paying people under the table for forever. And this brings some of it, probably a lot of it, above board.
Yeah.
And there's no going back from that.
Reggie Bush found that car, Vince. Okay. Reggie Bush found that car.
For sure. There's a lot of things that, happened interestingly during those times. But but yeah, having some structure around that would be great. And I think the coaches, like you said, they're going to be happy to have that, whatever it is.
So even though football is our bread and butter, it is the off season. So quick rapid fire things of, not necessarily football related that we want to get to. We brought it up last week. We just want to give kind of our thoughts and feelings on the state of the men's basketball program. It was an awful year. I mean, no one's going to pretend that it was great. Yes, we got kind of screwed by the NCAA from the beginning with the NCAA, on them not allowing Baba Miller to play. But still, I think even after seeing Baba Miller, I think it's fair to project it wouldn't have made the team a top 5 team or anything like that. But one thing I want to say is I've been seeing on the message boards the same people who a couple years ago were saying, fire all the coaches and let's start over. Guys, let's understand that although we've come a long way, we still are not yet to the point where we can reload every single year. We should feel lucky that we reloaded instead of rebuilt every year for about 6 to 7 years in a row. We were just rolling, and that was fun. and you get used to it, just like we get used to it in football. And so when it doesn't happen, you say red flag, it goes up. But I just want to caution everyone: let's stay away from the hyperbole and the knee jerk reaction. I'm a guy of trends, and 1 year does not mean a trend. Let's see what they do next year. What do you think, Vince?
First of all, I would like to ask you to edit out the cough I just had, if you don't mind,
No,
when you put this in
it's
post.
authentic, Vince. We want to hear the cough. We want to be a part of your body.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm a Hamilton fan,
Mm,
and even when things weren't going great, and the reason why I was a Hamilton fan is that it's consistent, right? He's consistent, and there was always things you could count on with his programs. Um, and would I love for Florida State to be a basketball program, like a school basketball school? Yes, not more than football, but yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think that with our new athletic director, I think I mean, we're already seeing, some more, understanding that the total package of your sports programs is really what you
mhm.
want to be, with football driving the bus. Um, but this past year, there's a number of things that in my opinion, have gone awry,
Mhm.
and some of them are not our fault. Like I say,
Yeah.
our right. First of all, Baba Miller, like you said, but a first year guy isn't going to change the fortunes of your program, right? So him not being able to play was a big deal. Also, in the last couple years, you've had two longtime assistants take on head coaching jobs at other places. So you got CY and Dennis Gates both leaving. And while Leonard Hamilton, I love him, don't kid yourself for a minute to think that the whole the coaching core as a whole is really how that 6 to 7 year trend, like you were saying, how that happened.
Yeah.
It's the combination of all that, and so you applaud those guys, and they deserved their promotions, they deserved going out and getting jobs and all that kind of stuff. But there's a transition that happens there, and trying to figure out. I mean, equate it to the football realm. One of the things that people say all the time, one of the reasons why Bobby had so much consistent success is because they had a consistent coaching staff for way longer than most schools would ever dream to have.
Mhm.
And so that consistency is a huge deal. And I think that, and then you add to that, the recruiting. CY and Dennis Gates were also great recruiters too, right?
Yep.
So, the recruiting hasn't necessarily, the guys that they brought in haven't been, the leaders necessarily that I think they wanted them to be. And so we're kind of, I want to say rebuild. We are, man. We are. It's just the program is in a weird place right now.
Yep.
Luckily, with the transfer portal,
Wah, wah,
you
wah,
know,
wah, 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 wah.
you can make some quick turnarounds, and you know, Leonard Hamilton is I don't think he's planning on leaving. I don't think they're planning on letting him go.
Yeah.
And so they're going to ride that out. Here you go. Let's fix this thing, and then ride off into the sunset. In a way that you're proud of.
For sure. Yeah. I would much rather see our friend Lenny hanging out until he's ready to retire. You know, let him go eat it. Take let's give him a year off. Let him give him some grace. Grace is a big thing for me. I always believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt until they prove you otherwise. So
Well, that is not very fan-like of you, Ryan.
yeah, I was not the guy. Not to bring up football, but even though it happened, I wasn't the guy saying fire Willie Taggart in the middle of his second year. I was the guy saying, you probably should really see the rest of the year out. So it's one of those things that I think a lot of instant gratification world gets a hold of a lot of
Yeah.
people. And when it comes to FSU, whereas 10 years ago I might have been very, very aggressive on making changes, these days I've with age comes perspective, and
You've
you
mellowed
see it.
out.
Yeah, I
You've
have
mellowed
mellowed out.
out.
Some would say I am as mellow as I don't even know as the string here. I'm a
I
bitter
will
bitter pill to swallow sometimes, but
I will go on. I will go on record as saying, by the time Willie's time was over, I was ready for that to happen. I thought that it should have, and I was on board with it.
yeah.
There
Other
was
than that,
enough
Vince,
evidence there that it wasn't gonna turn around.
I think we're in agreement. Let's give Mr. Leonard a chance.
Absolutely.
Vince, because I promise you that you are more caught up on our next two items than even I, who loves his university, would know. Why don't you go ahead and tell us current events in the world of our both our women's teams and our baseball?
All right, yeah, I'm not like super deep on that, but I do follow them all. So the
Mhm.
women's basketball team made the tournament. They had a kind of a lackluster ending to the season where they lost the final regular season game, I think, to I think it was Clemson maybe, and they
Mm.
which kind of kept them from getting a double bye in the ACC tournament.
Yep.
And then they went subsequently they went to the ACC tournament and lost their first game to Wake Forest. So their last two games of the season, they would agree were not what they wanted them to be. They ended up being, I think they're a 7 seed maybe
Hmm.
in the tournament. I think they opened with Georgia. But let's just say I love Sue Semrau. I mean, think about where she brought that program from when she started, and it's tough. It's tough to replace someone like that. And I think Brooke has done great. I mean, there was some purging of the roster, I think, that happened at that point. But the team plays hard, and Latson, who's a freshman, I think she won freshman of the year and everything like that. But it's just a joy to watch. So the women's basketball team, if you love that, which I do, they are in the tournament. You can continue to watch them. The baseball team has been, I would say, kind of up and down a little bit. They took the series from Pitt this past weekend, won the first two games, and then lost the final game. I think the last game was a rain shortened game.
Yeah.
But currently, at least the last I checked, they were getting clobbered by UCF tonight. So
That's a
I
shame.
just think they're still trying to figure things out in terms of the pitching rotation.
Yeah.
But first year for the new coach, right? So Grace, and I'm fully confident that the Link Jarrett era of the baseball team is going to be remarkable.
Yeah.
I just
And Vince,
I just believe that.
we forgot to put this on our sheet, and it's
Hmm.
important. Vince, where will we be reporting from in about 2 weeks live?
Great point, Ryan, which reminds me I actually have to acquire the tickets. However, so in 2 weeks from tonight on March 28th, Ryan and I will be doing a Garnet and Old Show live from it used to be called the baseball grounds of Jacksonville. I think it's still called that, maybe to a degree, but every year, Florida State and Florida, they play their series. They play one game in Tallahassee, one game in Hogtown, and one game in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Jacksonville game is in 2 weeks, and it may be kind of a truncated show. So Ryan and I are still trying to figure that out, but we're planning on going to that game and enjoy some baseball with the Knowles.
Absolutely, and hopefully, I would love weather like we currently have in Jacksonville to hold out. I doubt it will. It'll probably be a little bit warmer, but at night it's still pretty this time of year, so that's good. Vince, talk to us about Great Give and why it's so incredible.
Oh man, you got it all queued up here for me. I really appreciate that, Ryan. So in our last show, we talked about an upcoming charitable event going on for Florida State called the Great Give. And the Great Give, as a reminder, if you have not participated in that, is a 1 day, like 24 hours kind of blitz to raise money.
Mm-hmm.
And each of the, not every program in the university, but a lot of programs have specific goals that they're trying to hit, and then they get kind of incentives for hitting certain markers along the way. Well, I'll just let everybody know that the Great Give, the end result of that for the Marching Chiefs was $125,000+ during that 24-hour period. And that money, just so everybody is aware, that money is going toward an effort called Chiefs United, which is an effort to raise money to lower the cost of the Chiefs members' costs that they have to outlay. So doesn't
Really
go for
important
travel,
stuff.
just so we know. Doesn't go for travel. But it goes for that, which is really important. So that was a great,
really important
great
cause.
success.
That's
and then
good
what's
stuff.
next, Ryan?
Well, on the 15th of next month, so April 15th, we will be live from the spring game. In fact, I'm thinking that we might do a pre and post game, being that we will both be there without our families, which is usually not the case. So usually we all have things kind of going on in addition to enjoying the festivities. But this time it'll be just Vince and I. And I anticipate us doing a pre-game show and a post-game immediately following, just kind of giving our thoughts and general impressions. It'll also be a great test of the equipment and everything that we plan to use to broadcast live from Doak in the fall, because we will be doing live post-game outside Doak Campbell. We got it all. We got the full remote set up, and we're going to do a proof of concept first at the baseball game and then at the spring game and see how we're looking. So look forward to that. And when it's trash, blame Vince, not me.
And why do we do this, Ryan? Why do we spend so much effort and so much love and blood, sweat, and tears for this show? Why do we do that?
Well, for one, we love our Knowles. So that's number one. We love Florida State.
First and foremost.
But we are trying to provide the best product to everyone who takes time to listen to the show, that we appreciate people taking time to listen to us. We want to continue to grow every single year, to continue to get 1% better every single year. And I think you can see that. God forbid if you go to listen to our first show a couple years ago, you might just not do it. In fact, don't do it. But a little bit better second year. I think by the end of last year, we really had the technology locked down. And now we're going on the road. And that's an important step, I think.
Yeah, we're going on the road, and that's we're obviously trying to grow the audience, right? Because the more people, the better the conversation we have. So, it's for, we engage in this whole thing as fans, and we want to engage with fans because, that's where the love comes from. It's not about the inside information.
Yeah, that's definitely not it.
And it's not about the contacts. And problems may arise, but we will get through them.
It's about if we beat Clemson in Doak Campbell this fall inside Doak Campbell Stadium, that you might get to see Ryan do his post game without a shirt live on camera.
That, that in and of itself would warrant a sponsorship from someone, I would think.
Yes, and there will be maybe even a champagne bottle or a Mick Ultra or a shot of whiskey. But I will promise you right here and now to look forward that if we beat Clemson, I will do at least some part of the post-game show shirtless.
I'm still going to root for us to beat Clemson, regardless of that, Ryan, just so you know.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the support of, I work hard on this body by Cheez-It. It's not hard it's very hard to keep up. I'm ready to share it.
Share the wealth. So when you, that's kind of a tough transition. Just so we're all on cue here. Just a reminder to everybody, because we're going to kind of wrap up here. Every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. And please tell all your friends, join in live if you can, because the comments and, chatter about that really makes it fun. Like Ryan said, it's mostly spring practice and things like that, but we'll talk about other things too. And then spring game on April 15th, 4 p.m. is the game start. Ryan will be there. Ryan and I will be there. Again, you can find us everywhere that's anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And again, thank you everybody for listening, whether you're listening live or whether you're going to listen to this later. Go ahead and share it out, like it, subscribe. Tell us, Ryan, we haven't talked about this in a while. If you have any ideas for the show or comments about the show, where should they send that to?
Yeah, I mean, should I do it shirtless every week? I mean, that's a real concern. So please email us at garnetandold@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. If you're watching on the YouTubes, you can see our addresses on the screen. If not, it's Garnet and Old on Facebook, and on Twitter, it's Garnet_old. So really excited, and I just want to say Garnet and Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem.
Beautiful. Love it. Have a good night,
Go Noles.
everybody. Go Noles.